All right, this is episode 88 of the Rhody Rumble podcast. We're back better than ever, and I couldn't think of a better guest to have on to be back than this guy right here. This guy is unbelievable. He's a friend of the program, friend of mine, of course, a URI graduate. He's Rhode Island born and bred, and of course, he's sports anchor and reporter at CBS 19 in Charlottesville, Virginia. My guy, Aniekan Okon. How are you, man? It's been a
What's
while.
going on, Adam? How are you? No, I know it's been a while. Things are great. Right now, obviously it's June. We just wrapped up super regional stuff with the UVA baseball team. They're going to Omaha. Super excited about that. It's always fun when you get to cover teams that get to play at big stages, and I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna get into that and everything you're doing down in Charlottesville, and you're killing it right now. And we're all
I
seeing
appreciate it, man.
you're,
Thank you.
you're making the Harrington School look great. So keep up the great work. But I had meant to get back into doing this, and now I have some time, as we had talked about. I'm currently working in production in New York with MSG and Sirius XM. So now, with no longer the Knicks or Rangers being in contention of anything, I have more time to sit down and do these interviews. And again, you're one of the most genuine people and such a great
I
story.
appreciate that.
And
Thank you, man.
and it's been a pleasure to get to know you. And again, thank you for taking the time. I'm looking forward to doing this.
Dude, I'm absolutely excited, man. All doing stuff like this is always fun, so looking forward to it.
Always, always. First, I want to congratulate you again on all your success. We graduated together last May, so it's been a year, which is crazy to say. But what have you learned about yourself, about the industry as an alumni, as a recent grad? What are your biggest takeaways just from this past year?
I think the biggest thing I would say is kind of like it's just kind of crazy, like going back to like last May where I wasn't even sure like what like the next couple months had and hold. And it's just kind of crazy how yeah, you just don't know. And sometimes like a week can completely change your life and like taking that leap of faith can reap its benefits so greatly. And I think, you know, being someone that lived in Rhode Island my whole life, I obviously went to University of Rhode Island. I knew there was a possibility that I might have to step outside of Rhode Island in order to chase my dreams. And I think during graduation it was almost like an idea, but like when it like sort of became a reality with stuff coming down at like CBS 19 and the interview process and getting the job and all of that, it was like, oh my god, like I get the job, wow, like so excited, like this is great, like my dreams comes true. But it's also like I was almost sad like a little bit because it's like I've lived in Rhode Island my whole life. Rhode Island is everything I've known for like 22 years of my life. And it was scary thinking about that, like I was going to put that away. But I think kind of looking back almost a year later, it's like I don't regret the decision so much. I've grown so much individually as a person. And I, it's almost like so grateful for like the person I was a year ago being so patient and having so much trust in myself, knowing that now and seeing it now that it's paying off.
For sure. And again, you're killing it. You're making the Harrington School look unbelievable, and you're doing amazing work down in Virginia. And it's funny because we spoke about this before we started
Yeah.
recording, but when we first connected a few days ago and I had brought up the idea of you coming on the show, it was either after you had reminded me this, it was either after a basketball game or the spring football game, but it was leading up to our graduation. And we were the last two people in the media room of the Ryan Center, editing or doing what we do. And again, at the time, we were just two nervous kids who had no idea what we were going to do, didn't have any jobs or anything lined up, or didn't even have a plan. Well, we knew what we wanted to do, but we didn't know where that would take us in a year from now. So again, to be sitting down a year later and to see it all kind of come full circle and to be having this discussion is so cool. So again, you're killing it, man, and we're all rooting for you. And yeah, it's awesome. It's so cool because I think about that and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. And in a way, I'm still trying to figure it out, at least for
Right.
myself. And just to see the growth over the last year, it's unbelievable. So
For
yeah.
sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, I appreciate you giving me my flowers here. But yeah, I think it's kind of like even now, like we're both kind of like in different things, and like, you might be going through stuff with work, but like sometimes you got to take a step back a little bit and kind of like realize like, oh wow, like I've really come so far. Um, and like literally, yeah, dude, I still remember that. It might have been like I think it might have been like one of Archie's like last like
Yeah.
media availabilities of the year. We're sitting there. I'm editing stuff because I had to put some stuff together for 12 and stuff like that, and the Rhody stuff I was doing. And we are just like, man, I don't know what's next, but whatever it is, like I
Yeah.
hope it's good.
Yeah. Well, it seems to have worked out. It seems like,
Yeah.
it is working out the way that you had planned it. But first, I want to get into a little bit of your background. Obviously, I know a lot about you from getting to know you over the last 4 or 5 years. But obviously, for those tuning in and watching this interview at home, again, such a pleasure to work with, and obviously someone that everybody should remember the name because big things are coming. But I wanted to get into a little bit of high school first. I know you were an athlete in high school. You played basketball at Classical in Providence. For you, when did you realize that, you were so passionate and you had this love for sports? Was it as an athlete in high school? Was it growing up? And when did you realize that you wanted to talk sports the rest of your life and eventually make a career out of it?
Man, it actually started in 2008, watching that Celtics run with, KG, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo, all of that. And before that, we had only really like watched like Patriots because my dad was like a big Patriots fan. He loved football. So like we would sit there and like watch it. But I think with that Celtics run, that's how I got into basketball and how I fell in love with it. And I think throughout, like any kid who plays sports wants to eventually become a professional athlete. I wanted to be an NBA player for like the longest. But you get into high school and stuff like that, and I quickly realized, like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. So I always knew I wanted to work in sports, uh, but I didn't know exactly what. I was like, maybe I'll be a general manager, athletic trainer. I did a little journalism. I was like the high school sports editor for my high school newspaper. And that's kind of when I was like, hey, like, why don't I do this? Like I would spend like growing up, like watching Sports Center and probably SpongeBob were like the only two things I ever did. And I was like, that in high school, I was like, wait, like I watch Sports Center all the time. Like people actually get paid to do this. And I was like, I'm gonna try it. So um I did it in high school for a little bit. Actually like really loved it. And I loved talking about and telling stories about teams that didn't necessarily, I don't want to say didn't get covered, with stuff, in this you can't get to everywhere. So I kind of wanted to kind of shed a light on like, my classmates and stuff like that, and kind of be be an outlet for that. And I was like, I enjoyed it so much that I was like, let me get into it when I got to URI. So I joined the cigar, got into it a little bit, and then I eventually, I don't want to say I switched the pen for a camera, but I eventually got into the newscast and stuff like that. I loved being on camera, loved talking about sports, and just um, early on, I loved the challenge of like, just like, I didn't know how to edit, but like, I wanted to see how the final product came about so badly. So I was like, all right, I'm going to learn how to do this. I'm going to make it look good. And, I just fell in love with kind of just editing, telling stories, talking to people. I enjoy, like, I tell people all the time, I love talking to people, getting to know people, telling their stories. That's why I enjoy the job that I do so much now. But yeah, and then pretty much once I figured out like I wanted to be on camera, um, I kind of, I don't want to say narrowed my focus, but like I did a lot. I was also did radio. I kept at it with the newspaper, but I knew like when I graduated, I eventually wanted to be a sports reporter at a local TV station. So yeah, that's kind of I kind of summarized 5, 6 years in, I don't know, like 34 minutes there.
I don't know if I need to ask any of the other
Yeah.
questions I have. I think we can end it right there. But yeah. So did you get any on camera or just any journalism experience at all in high school, or did that really begin with the cigar and all the other opportunities in college, I guess?
It really began with a cigar. Like I remember like the editor in chief at the time, Ian Weiner, gave like literally was like, "You're gonna do the newscast," and I was like, "Okay." And I remember like being given like a camera and like learning like what a tripod is and like framing and like rule of thirds and all that other stuff that's like, you know, so important to framing and like shooting stuff and doing all of that. And I'm like, it's just complicated. Like I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. And um but I think it goes back to like I just wanted to like it was such a challenge that I was like, I'm going to get good at this. And eventually I did.
Yeah, there you go. And that's what makes you so
Yeah.
good is your consistency. And I think that's what makes you such a good storyteller is that, and two things you said in the previous question and obviously in that last response is that one, you love talking to everybody. Two,
Yeah.
you want to shine a light on, the stories and the things that don't get as much coverage as
Yeah.
obviously, the Celtics and the four major sports. But also again, just your consistency and your willingness to learn. And again, I think there's a reason for all the success you've had. And I think in those two responses, you kind of told us why right there. Real quick, you mentioned the Celtics were a big reason to get you into sports and I guess redefine and rediscover this love. How are we feeling? 2 games in, up 2-0. I mean, I'm a Knicks fan, so I can kind of take a back seat here, but
Yeah.
how are you feeling?
Dude, I'm like cautiously like excited and nervous because last night I was at Buffalo Wild Wings with a couple coworker friends, and after the game happened, I was like watching the game, and I was like, up until like the third quarter, I was like, we should not be like, how are we still in this game? And eventually, we pulled away in the third quarter, but um, I don't know. I'm like happy that we're up 2-0, but I'm like, we can get to Friday game 4, and it could easily be tied at 2-2.
Right.
So I think it's important. Celtics, as long as they get one in Dallas, that's all that matters. I will be happy. It'll be if it's 3-1 come Saturday morning, I will be happy. But who knows? We've seen, the Celtics kind of make it hard we've seen it all year. Yeah, the Celtics make it hard for themselves. So
Yeah.
um I'm kind of nervous, but I do feel good because like we were in a similar situation in 2022. We're up 2-1 against the Warriors. And we're like, oh wow, we might do it. And then, we all know what happened then. But yeah, man, I hope we get the job done. I'm kind of praying, but we'll see. It's been too long since New England sports fans have celebrated a championship.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a New York sports fan living in New York, obviously a Yankee fan. So,
Yeah,
I like to say the Celtics and the Yankees have a lot of parallels, that culture, that story, history, the championships, but obviously the drought as well. So I'm hoping, we get the job done as well this season. And my Knicks came up short, if only they had stayed healthy, but, fortunately they're a young core and we'll see what happens. But moving on, I just wanted to hit that real quick because I knew if I didn't let us get a Celtics question in there, gonna go and they're the talk right now. Aside from maybe Dan Hurley, who, the Lakers, they're always got to rain on the parade of the Celtics, man. It's NBA
he's
Finals week, and the Lakers are making the headlines. So
right. I hope at this point, whenever this does come out, I hope he isn't the Lakers coach. I hope he's still the UConn coach because I don't know.
well, Nick, we're
Something about
recording this. We're recording this Monday, June 10th at 1:10 p.m. So this we could break the news right here. That could very likely happen.
that very likely happen. But I hope when this comes out, he's still the UConn coach because I like the roster that he has together coming
Yeah.
coming back. And I don't know. I don't think going to coach an aging LeBron with a roster that has old vets. I don't think that's the recipe of success now in the NBA. We see Minnesota, we see Boston, we see Denver. They're all young cores. So I don't think, I love Hurley. Hurley's like everything, everything he's did at URI. I don't want him to go there and then like everyone's like, he's a bad coach, this, that, and the third. And then it's like, no, he's in a terrible situation. And then they're going to eventually make him a scapegoat for what the larger issue that the Lakers have. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I feel about it, but we'll see.
And I agree with you there. I think he's a Northeast guy, and I think UConn is the place to be until maybe the Knicks job or something else open, the Nets job, something opens up in the Northeast. So,
Right.
but let's get back on track here because this is what we can talk about this all day. But
Yeah.
you kind of touched on it earlier. You stayed local for college. You've been a Rhode Island guy your entire life up until now, and you and your twin brother come to URI in the fall of 2019, the beginning of the sports media major, really, and I was there for that as well. I knew you early on from classes, and we would cross paths. I took more of the WRIU route. You took more of the cigar route. But again, we cross paths all the time, and I saw you at the Ryan Center at Meade Stadium. But you really, as I like to say, climbed up the ranks when it came to the student-run newspaper and the Good 5 Cent Cigar. You were a contributing writer, staff writer. You moved on to a reporter and anchor with the cigar and pursued more of the newscast, and then eventually just became the sports editor and ran the whole show. Would you say that getting that experience with the cigar and getting your reps on camera for stand-ups really prepared you for now and what everything you're doing now?
Yes, it is literally why I got my first internship at ABC6. It allowed me to meet Nick and Ian, and kind of put my stuff out there because and I tell people all the time, interns, people I talk to about, who just want to know about the job I do. Like anything that you have, just throw it out there because you never know who is going to see it. So like the stuff I was doing at the cigar allowed me to, get noticed by Ian and then Nick. And then of course, the sports media community, not only at URI, but just in Rhode Island in general, is so tight knit. So everyone knows everyone. So once a lot of my stuff was out there, seeing them at games and stuff like that, that really allowed me to get other opportunities and then kind of just build my portfolio, get experience, learn different things, pick their brains, and kind of go from there. Because I know that internship I had at ABC6, when was it? My sophomore heading into my junior year summer. And I remember like the first week in and kind of just like experiencing everything. It was a lot, but like I was like, this is exactly what I want to do when I graduated. So yeah, no, the cigar, all of that wouldn't have been possible without the cigar, the newscast, all that different things.
Yeah, so many great opportunities. I think I only wrote maybe one total article for the cigar. I took more of the broadcasting route and WRIU in your view.
Hey
But
man, you still turned out really great, man. So
I appreciate that.
it
Still
don't matter,
doing
man.
this too, which is
Yeah,
great. We can have these
yeah,
conversations. But I see everything that the cigar did over time and just amazing work across the board from the entire sports staff and everybody in that organization. And you obviously did such a great job. During those first couple of years, you mentioned the ABC6 internship. I also interned with them.
yeah.
And I have a question coming up about that as well. But during those first couple of years, did you have, I guess like an aha moment or maybe a story, maybe you were in the right place at the right time where you realized, okay, this is what I want to be doing. I want to be on camera. I want to be doing this the rest of my life. Did you discover that over time, or was there sort of a time or place, an event, either with the cigar or ABC6 or even News 12, where you realized, okay, I'm in the right place and this is going to be my life?
I think for me, it was actually that same summer. I remember I forgot who the Patriots were playing in a preseason game. It might have been the Commanders, but I'm just how when you're at Gillette Stadium, you go down, you're at the press box. There's the blue level and the red level,
Yep.
obviously, and then you go down the elevator, and then you get to the elevator. You have to walk through, and then you're at like kind of like the lower bowl where like the locker rooms and stuff like that.
Yep.
So I'm like walking down, and I'm walking from the elevator to down to the field. I forgot for what reason. Um, but I'm just walking down and I just casually see Robert Kraft riding in a golf cart. And I'm like, this is cool. Like I was like, I've only ever seen Robert Kraft like on TV or through pictures, but like to actually like see him in person was like so cool. And then like even that same summer, going to training camp, watching Mac Jones when he was here, seeing Bill Belichick, who's like a mythical figure in New England, seeing him in person and kind of like interacting with him and like uh that was all. I was like, yeah, I could definitely do this for the rest of my life. And um it just like made me like really realize that like I'm like so fortunate just being able to do what I do.
Yeah, and that was a moment for me. I mentioned that I interned with them as well. I
Yeah.
was able to intern with them the fall semester of my senior year, and walking in and out of the Patriots locker room. And I
Yeah.
remember the first day I was there, Bill Belichick just walked right past me, and I
Yeah.
thought first I thought, okay, this guy's really short, and then I thought,
Yeah.
oh, I'm really tall or he's really short, and
Yeah.
I'm not that tall. And then I thought, well, okay, I mean, I'm in the right place at the right time as well. And I mean, this is an unbelievable experience, and I definitely chose the right industry to be able to do cool things like this. Again, you found your love, your passion, and you mentioned that internship with ABC6, interning with Ian Steele and Nick Coit. Again, I know them very well from
My
my
guys.
internship,
My
and
guys.
they're
I
unbelievable.
miss them so much. Yeah.
Oh, I try and keep in touch with them when I can. And again, interned with them my fall semester of senior year. So last year, two amazing people and simply professionals at their craft. What did you get from that experience? You kind of touched on it in the last answer, but just from, the internship and that entire experience, what did you learn from them directly?
Those two are miracle workers. I don't even know, like, even now, like, watching some of the stuff from afar, like, some of the stuff that they're able to get done and, like, the volume and, like, the content that they're able to put together, it's like, dude, like, how are y'all able to do this? But, I think with them, they're like a work couple. It's like weird. They have like such a like great relationship that like they're able to like make that possible. And I think a lot of my work ethic and a lot of like, why I work so hard is kind of comes from them and pretty much everyone else in kind of the sports media community in Rhode Island, just like seeing them grind and like go to different high school championships and, produce content for a show, produce content for Twitter, TikTok, Ian, absolute GOAT on TikTok.
He's
But yeah,
always on
just
my
kind of
For You page. I just
he's
want to throw that he's always on my
dude,
For You
it's
page.
it's
Yeah.
I scrolled through and I'm like, oh wow, yeah, there's Ian again. I was like, it's
Yep.
crazy. But yeah, I think kind of just um from them specifically, like I just learned like just like the work it takes to kind of get into the industry and kind of like do well at it. And of course, I also did learn that when summer later, I did get the internship at Channel 12 and then eventually work there. Um, but yeah, it's, it's those two are workhorses, man. It's like, even now, like I said, like seeing it from afar, it amazes me so much.
Yeah, for sure. And that experience for me not only introduced me to doing stand-ups, on camera work, what goes into the day-to-day responsibilities of being a sports anchor or reporter, but also the editing and the production side of it as well, and working in the control room. And even for me, not always being so close to being on camera or
Yeah,
necessarily wanting to go right into that right away, at least there's this side of, okay, here's how one thing gets from one place to another. You go out into the field and you take a camera and you film something, but how does it get on TV? There's so many steps to that process, and it's so cool to me, and it's cool for you too, I'm sure,
right.
because now you're able to take what you learned during those experiences and those internships and really do it all, from not only going out into the field but also producing and editing. So
Yeah, and I was literally just about to say that. Like a lot of like what I did that summer, I'm doing literally like right now. But
yeah,
obviously getting paid for it now. But like it's literally like the same thing.
yeah, for sure. And obviously, I can't forget to mention WPRI 12, Channel 12, also an intern there. You later moved on to work there at the station as a producer, photographer, reporter. And what impressed me the most is you were doing this while in college. You were currently taking
Yeah,
classes and working for the station. On top of that, you were working for Rhode Island Athletics and GoRhody.com as a digital reporter. So, you would, and I remember this from last semester or sorry, 2 semesters ago, last year. Um, you would either record two separate stand-ups, one for GoRhody.com and another for Channel 12, or you would record the same stand-up twice, and switch out the mic flags. Talk to me about a little bit about WPRI and how that helped your career, and all the roles that it led you to, and how it elevated you to opportunities like Go Rhody.
I think the love that I have for ABC6, I probably have it just as much for Channel 12. And I tell people all the time, I literally would not have this job here at in Charlottesville if it wasn't for everything that I learned at Channel 12. They literally, Maury, Taylor, JP, Sam, Derwin. I feel like I hope I'm not missing anyone out, but like just like that whole environment really just, you know, really just allowed me to kind of learn like one, what it takes to kind of be a reporter, kind of the planning process, how they go about putting shows together, what games to go to, how to coordinate when to go to a game, when to leave a game to go to another game. And I think, um, like in the process, like I remember, I'm like, this is a lot. But like looking back now, I'm like so grateful for it because, yeah, like for example, I might have been I was at a URI basketball game or like a URI football game, and a lot of times, like you said, I was doing stuff for both of them. Like at a basketball game, I might cut highlights and then send sound, and then I would literally like run back out and do my stuff for Go Rhody because I wanted to get the reps and I wanted to kind of, make it as hard for myself so that, when the time comes, now and stuff like that, when, you're in a time crunch where you have like an hour to like send everything, it's like, okay, like I've done it before. I've run around an area for 2 hours shooting two different high school games. Um, and had to come back and put it together in like 45 minutes. Like I did all of that when I was at 12. So now when I'm here, it's like, oh yeah, you got to drive an hour to a game and then drive back to cut the highlights and then be on a show. It's like, okay, I've done that before. Like
Yeah.
I think, and especially for me, because like the time that I got here like the week that high school football season started here in Virginia. So like my coworkers tell me all the time, it was like, I felt bad for you because like your head was probably spinning, so much stuff was like being thrown at you. But I was like, like I was doing a lot of these things before I got here. So like, when of course it was a lot, but like when I got down here, it was like, okay, like I've done all of this before. Like it's not like I'm like used to it. Like, so yeah.
Nothing you're not already used to, and that's great. And
Right. Yeah. No, I got a lot of the experience of like even cutting on deadline, putting a package together on deadline, all of that stuff. I had done it before. So, and so often, like, I'm fortunate that I had that experience because like a lot of people, go to their first market and, they don't have it to that degree. And, I was able to come here and, kind of get my feet on the ground and start running.
there you go, right there. Would you say you had sort of your own style, when you go about doing things, or did you take little things from the cigar, from Go Rhody, ABC6, WPRI? When you put together a package or a news report, or anything you really do in your day-to-day responsibilities, do you go about it in your own way, or are there little things you took from each job that you had to kind of craft this style, or is it sort of modeled based off of somebody you've previously worked with or somebody you grew up watching or listening to?
I think I take a little bit of everything from everyone I've come across. Like even now, like I still watch Nick, Maury, Taylor, like everyone back home that I worked with and watched at home. Like I still watch now, even just to pick up little things about like how they present themselves on air, how they say different things. and even just outside of them, I probably try to watch like as many people as I can, because I think like of course like this is the dream, but like for me, like I'm only at the beginning and I want to be able to continue climbing that ladder. And I think for me, like, I have to keep learning. Like I have to keep trying different things so that I kind of can one figure out what is most comfortable for me, and kind of make my life a lot easier in terms of how I tell a story and how I do my work every day.
For sure. So you graduated from the University of Rhode Island. You took some time, obviously, to yourself, enjoyed the summer, still contributing to WPRI, obviously. But let me ask about the job search process after graduation. What was it like landing this job? And how did you know CBS 19 would be your new home?
Man, the job process was not fun at all. I started it, when did I start it? I started it right after spring break, just like emailing and like reaching out to stations that had openings. And I probably had like one or two like interviews slash like, yeah, and stuff like that, but like nothing concrete. And then um it's like July, and I'm like, if I don't find something in August, I'm gonna have to like pivot a little bit, like kind of figure something else out. Um, and I remember it was a couple of days after um, the 4th of July. I was just looking at, I was just going, I had a list of like markets and stuff like that. And I kind of was like going through, I was like, okay, like, you know, this would be a cool place to work. This would be a cool place to work. I came across Charlottesville, and I went on the CBS 19 website, and it just was funny that it worked out that they actually had a sports director um, position open. And I had reached out to my boss now at the time, and I was like, hey, like, my name's this, that, and the third. I've worked here. This is my experience. I just graduated. I know you guys have a sports director position open right now, but I just graduated college. I feel like I'm not ready to be a sports director right now. But if you do promote your number two to your number one, I would like to be considered for the number two position. So um, I did all of that, and I actually didn't hear back for like 2, 3 weeks. And I'm like,
Hmm.
this is not good. And then end of July, he reaches back out to me and is like, hey, like, saw your email, like, do you have time later in the week to talk? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And we talked on the phone, um, and for like half an hour, and I'm like, this feels great. I was like cautiously optimistic because like I had gone through the process, like I said, 2 other times where I felt good about like where I was, and then got ghosted or got denied. And um yeah, talk to my news director, talk to the GM, talk to my sports director who I work with now. And within like, I was nervous like the whole week because like everything was like aligning, and like I was like nervous because like I didn't want to put my hopes thinking that it was something was gonna happen and then it not happening. But fortunately it did. I got offered the job a week later. Um and they were like, hey, like, can you move down 2.5 weeks? And I'm like, I've been waiting 4 months to be a sports reporter. Like I can move down now if I want. But yeah, no, I took the 2.5 weeks, kind of told family, told my friends. I didn't, because there wasn't enough time. I couldn't tell everyone. But and then like a week later, I visited. I was like, okay, like, this seems like a nice place to work and stuff like that. That was after I took the job. And then, literally 2.5 weeks after I got offered the job, was down in Charlottesville, lived there, stuff like that, and kind of just took it from there. But honestly, just like going back to what I was saying earlier, like a week can literally change your life, and you just got to be patient. It's hard to be patient. It was hard for me to be patient, but like it's just crazy how things can change in such a short amount of time.
You don't even know how much I can relate to you because when I graduated
Right.
that entire summer, I was looking for something, and just I'll tell you a little bit because I don't think I
Yeah.
actually told you, but
Yeah.
my perspective, I was thinking, okay, well, I'm from Long Island, I have the New York
Yeah.
market accessible to me, I might as well move home, obviously save some money and see what opportunities I can get in New York, and I didn't know if that meant go production, I didn't know if that
Yeah.
meant go on air or just go straight into writing. Again, there's so many different avenues you could take. And, I knew people because I know it's all
Yeah.
about who you know, but you really
Right. Yeah.
you know people, but you don't. And it all kind of hits you once you graduated. Like
Yeah.
you're kind of taking all the
Yeah.
summer all in and you're
Yeah.
excited, and then September comes around and you're like, wow, I'm not moving back in, I'm not
Right.
taking classes, and
Yeah.
you go. So fortunately I had
And I think the difficult, sorry to cut you off there. I think the
oh, you're
difficult
good.
part about it is like one, like the job market is trash,
Terrible.
unfortunately. But you kind of almost think like, oh, all this experience that I did at URI in school, it's like I'm gonna be the exception. Like I'm
Right.
gonna find a
Right.
job like right before graduation and like, be able to celebrate and like feel good that like I'm gonna go to my next chapter of my life. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. And then another thing's annoying that like after you graduate, it's always graduation season.
Yep.
So you got family like, oh, what's next? Stuff like that. And you're like, I don't know.
Well,
And
it's
then
also
like,
December time too. So you're not only competing with the recent grads and everybody, you're also competing with
right,
students who are interning for just
right,
entry level positions. So
right.
yeah, I mean it's wild. As you were saying, the job market is
Yeah,
insane, and
yeah,
it's like you think you have all these connections and you have all this
right.
experience, and now you're kind of like starting over as a freshman
Yeah.
again. And again, fortunately, as I was saying, fortunately, I interned with MSG, but it was across the street in corporate. Um, but I wasn't working, in networks. I wasn't working with producers and Emmy Award winning, talented people that I am with now. But I knew a few of the recruiters from working in the corporation and across the street in the offices, which are attached to the arena itself. Um, and I had met a few recruiters and I decided to just keep in touch with them. And I guess those were people I knew without actually, getting to know them on a personal level. So, keeping in touch with them and now working with the network this past year. And then, for me working at Sirius XM, I got completely lucky. It was in maybe either December or January. I don't even remember interviewing for this position. It was an internship. I didn't know I could get an internship because all the other people I was interning with were incoming juniors, or it was the winter. So it was like January, February, March. So it was actually the
like J term, like a J
beginning
term
of
type deal.
I don't even again because I was in Rhode Island, I
Yeah.
wasn't really in contention or in the running for
Mhm.
any of these internships the last 4 years because I was up in New England, so I didn't
Yeah.
have the opportunity to intern with, some of the networks here in New York. So
Right.
I had just applied to Sirius XM and kind of got lucky. Again, I don't remember interviewing for it or anything. And then I worked on Adam Shine's show uh,
Okay.
on Sirius XM Mad Dog Radio, and it was amazing. The producer actually went to the University of Rhode Island too.
Oh wow.
I had not known anybody from New York working in sports who had went to URI. Um, Obviously a lot older than me, but it was really cool to kind of get that foot in the door. And once you're finally there, and I'm sure you can relate to this, it's
Yeah.
like you finally have a sigh of relief. Like, okay, I'm in the industry and I'm talking, and we were interviewing people every day on the show, Adam Schefter, Mel Kiper, and I'm like, this is insane. I mean, just
Yeah.
you know, 8 months ago, 10 months ago, I was sitting in the newsroom with Aniekan. Like, what am I
Yeah.
going to be doing? So, and then a week later, promoted to the position I am in now with Sirius XM. So, it's kind of crazy. And you said it too. Like, you never really know when you're just going to have a good week and an
Yeah.
opportunity is going to come knocking on the door. So, I can totally relate to that, just from my experiences the last
Yeah.
year or so. I will ask, did you have when you were applying to jobs and obviously applying to this job, did you have any resources? Were you in contact with Ian, Nick, Maury, Taylor, anyone like that, or even Shane Donaldson to help you get the position, or was that something you kind of just handled on your own?
Specifically with this job, obviously because Rhode Island is a far ways away from Charlottesville, Virginia, I didn't have any connections with this specific job. I kind of had to reach out to um, people who kind of were here already or had been here both before. Best example of that is Danielle Stein. She is a sports reporter and anchor in Orlando. And it's funny, she's actually from just outside of Boston. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, if I'm going to come down here to Charlottesville, like, this is a perfect person to kind of like who understands like making the move from New England down to Charlottesville. So we kind of had talked like half an hour while I was kind of in the interview process, and that helped. But for me, yeah, like when I was kind of going through and kind of applying and jobs like stuff, I looked at like job boards and stuff like that. But I also tried to use like like you said, like Maury, Ian, all of them. I try to use them as a resource, just to see like if there was anything else that I wasn't seeing any jobs that had been missing or like had it been posted. Yeah, kind of using them as references, resources to kind of, like you said, like get my foot in the door. So,
All right, here it is. We got the breaking news we wanted. I don't know if you saw it while you were talking there, but and
really,
I apologize. I was not ignoring you at all.
no,
But
it's okay. No, I'm
Adrian
like checking my phone
Wojnarowski,
now.
Adrian Wojnarowski did just tweet out Connecticut's Dan Hurley has turned down the Los Angeles Lakers 6 years, $70 million offer. Obviously, former Rhode Island coach. So, Aniekan, I have the privilege of asking you. I'm the first one now to ask you your reaction to this breaking news. I mean, well, so excited I knocked over the mic. What do you got for me? I
Wow.
mean, unbelievable.
I'm glad he didn't take the job. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
6 year contract, 70 million. That
Yep.
is a lot of money. And I can imagine how hard that would have been to turn that down. But I'm glad he did. I feel like, I'm sure he has his own ambitions of being an NBA coach one day. Um, but I feel like he has like such a great roster right now. I don't think the Lakers is like the greatest situation to go to.
Yeah.
You got an aging superstar, you got an aging roster. Um, they've had what is it, four coaches in like the last 7 years. All really, if we think about it, like most of them have been like good coaches. Luke Walton, um, Darvin Ham, I forget who else they had in between that time, but they're good coaches, and a lot of it is they've gone because they're like win now, win now, win now mode, and I think I don't want to see Dan Hurley go to a situation where if they end up missing the playoffs or crashing out in the play-in, it's his fault. I think that whole situation has to do with it's less about the coach and that the roster is so poorly constructed. It's built around two superstars that, one's aging and another one is can barely stay healthy.
Right.
And it's not a situation that he's going to succeed in. I think he should go somewhere where, the recipe now is, build a young core. And of course, I think the rest that has always been the recipe, but build a young core and then put vets around that young core. And I think, if he wants to be a successful coach, like he got to go to a situation like that. And going to Los Angeles is not that. But I'm so glad he didn't take the job because
Yeah, me too.
he probably would have like me like God forbid like a couple years from now it doesn't work out like he'll probably have like an easy chance like going back to college but like he probably like I know he has ambitions of like being an NBA coach but like one bad job doesn't do well and you kind of ruin that so
Yeah.
um
I feel
yeah
like
I'm glad to see he didn't take the job.
we're going in and out. I'm talking to you about
Yeah.
you. This is about you, but we got Rhode Island breaking news on the other hand. UConn, Rhode Island, New England breaking news. So,
it,
um,
for a little bit, I will say it almost felt like it was going to be like an 11th hour decision, like it was, back
yeah,
in 2018 when
the
he was
decision.
like, "Yeah, I'm going to go." But I'm glad. Um, I'm glad he decided to stay. I'm sure Rhody fans are probably hearing that and they're like, "I wish he stayed now," but it is what it is.
Well, we'll find out. I guess
Yeah,
I guess I will have actually a question on that. So
yeah,
from the UConn perspective, at least my opinion or my take on it, it's the first time I'm putting that out there because we're
yeah,
recording. And
yeah,
this news just broke.
yeah,
It was 145, it's
yeah,
149 now. But I'm happy that he is staying in stores and that he's continuing to build what he's built. He's built a powerhouse in college basketball. I look at it from the college basketball, the UConn perspective. I know a lot of Rhode Island fans are UConn fans as well.
yeah.
And a big reason why is, of course, the connections and the ties. Dan
Right,
Hurley, Andre Barry, Malik Martin now. So I think it's really cool to see, obviously, that he's going to continue to build what he's built over the last, 3, 4, really since 2018 when he arrived on campus. And it's cool to see. It's cool. You don't really see you see dynasties, but you don't see it as much in college basketball or college athletics
right.
as you used to. And I like to see that. And I'm just excited. I wish he had
I
stayed at Rhode Island, but do
yeah.
you see any resemblance in the way he's built? I know it's a different time with NIL and the transfer portal. Do you see any resemblance in the way that he built Rhode Island to how he's building UConn or
I'm not sure, but like going back to what you're saying about like what he's done to build the program, I think
right,
it's so impressive what he's doing now, probably compared to like coaches of the past, because like you said, right now he's dealing with NIL and the transfer portal, and like, it's so players can easily be like, if the situation isn't going well, they can like, oh, I'm gonna jump in the portal.
right?
And um and even in teams in the past, you've so often seen like older teams that are kind of like grow together. What is it? 2020, well, the first year they won, what is it? Um, they were good, but even this past year, they were probably even better with, they probably tweaked, they had a lot of what they had from that first championship run, but they kind of like retooled a little bit, added a little bit of what they needed um,
They lost a lot of players
for this year.
this year too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting. Yeah, this year, like it'll be interesting because yeah, like you said, they lost a lot this year, but they also brought in a lot. So
Mhm.
it'd be interesting to see how he puts it together.
But even the previous from the first championship to the second, these last 2 years, there was a lot of transitioning as well. I mean, a lot of players
Yeah,
left for the NBA draft, and we're seeing the same thing this time around.
right.
Well, it's a no-go, obviously.
Yeah,
Andre Jackson. Now you have guys like
yeah,
Klingon going to the NBA draft. So it'll be interesting to see how him and his team and his coaching staff work towards that three-peat. But yeah,
for sure. Yeah, no, I'm excited about because it's funny. Like I grew up, like you said, like a lot of Rhody fans also happen to be like UConn fans. Like I loved UConn. I
yeah.
enjoyed watching the Shabazz Napier, Ryan Boatwright, all those teams. So like I do follow them from afar. But yeah, like I'm excited. What is it? They have Aiden Mahaney. I love college basketball, so like I've caught myself like watching like West Coast basketball. He was at St. Mary's, and I'm excited to see what he does at UConn. And then even guys like I'm drawing a blank on who else. Liam McCreary. What is it? The 5-star high school recruit that they were able to
Right.
get.
Right.
Like they have the pieces together to run it back again.
Yeah, and Alex Caravan's coming back too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna be great. I almost want to. I tweeted it out already, but maybe when I
Yeah.
edit this, I'll put in
Yeah.
the uh the I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving from
I'm not leaving.
Wolf of Wall Street.
You know what? I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. The show goes on.
Talk a little bit more about the transition. Obviously tough. Again, all you've known is Rhode Island. You're a Rhode Island guy, Rhode Island born, bred. You went to URI. You lived there. You went to school there. You have family there. But in this industry, as you know, you sometimes have to move and make sacrifices and go where the opportunities are. Um,
Right.
and that could mean, missing holidays and missing, time with your family and friends. So what has this transition been like for you? I'm sure pretty tough in the beginning, but what motivates you to keep going after this dream and to still be able to? I know your brother isn't too far away; he's in West
Yeah.
Virginia,
Yeah.
killing it too. By the way, I've been meaning to get in touch with him, but what has motivated you to kind of keep going and keep after this dream, even if it is a little bit further away?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it kind of goes back to kind of making my younger self proud. I think, yeah, like the first 3, 4 months were like so difficult for me because, yeah, like you said, like a lot of the stuff I was going through, transitioning to a new job, transitioning to a new area. I didn't have any friends. Like a lot of the stuff I was going through, like I couldn't like easily like go to my brother or like go to my family to kind of like talk through with it. Because me and my brother, everyone knows me and my brother are super close. And it was difficult to kind of like go through that and like not have him there. And it was also difficult because like I knew he was also in the midst of his own job search. And like I couldn't be there for him to like kind of like help him navigate his emotions of like not being able to find a job. But yeah, I think like the first 3, 4 months were probably the hardest. Just because I was homesick all the time. I wasn't sure I made the right decision. I was just it was a lot. And I think kind of what kind of kept me going back to like this is the right thing, it'll eventually get better is one, like, you know, this is what my younger self would have wanted. And that kind of kept me going every day. And then, eventually, I found my footing, was able to get comfortable a little bit, kind of make this place my own a little bit. And then of course it got a lot easier. But it was just like, yeah, it was just like so difficult. Like I remember like going to because my oldest brother helped me move in and I dropped him off at the airport and like I remember like giving him a hug and like watching him go into the terminal to catch his flight back home and like just like crying, like driving back to my apartment because I'm like all alone. Like I don't know anyone. Like I have no friends. Like I gotta figure this out. But
Right.
you take it one day at a time. That's been my mindset with this whole time. And then you eventually get comfortable with being by yourself. You get comfortable with doing stuff on your own. And I've grown so much. And um it's kind of just helped me foster my own sense of self.
Yeah, for sure. And just from talking to you, I mean,
Yeah.
you're the same person and
Yeah.
but you've grown and you've matured and from living on your own and having that independence, that's what comes with it. So again, man, you're killing it and
I
it's really
appreciate it. Thank you,
awesome.
man.
It's awesome. So what has it been like in Charlottesville? I mean, mainly UVA athletics. There is the high school athletics, of course, aspect of it. Is there a story or a moment that stands out to you that you've had the opportunity to cover? I mean, right now it's pretty exciting with UVA baseball making this
Right.
run of College World Series as they prepare to head down to Omaha. What has it been like, as far as the work and as far as the stories and opportunities that you've been able or connections even that you've been able to make and have since getting down there?
Dude, there's like been like so many different things. I think it goes back to and I didn't know this till I got down here, but like field hockey is a very big thing down here in Charlottesville. And um being able to watch that team, when was that? That might have been like October, November. But like, yeah, that was like my first 3 months there. Team made a run, played in the final four of the field hockey championships. And then obviously basketball season's a ton of fun. Everyone loves Tony Bennett as and just being able to like see like what he's done at Virginia, obviously won a national championship in 2019. And then watching them make March Madness, that was a ton of fun. And then even like, before March Madness, like being able to like go to Cameron Indoor and like, Cameron Indoor, like if you're a basketball fan, like you've watched games there and like being able to like see it in person, it's like, yo, like this is crazy. And I think what kind of made that experience cooler was, Kate Rogerson, right?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So she works down in Raleigh, Durham.
Yep.
And like being able to like connect with her and like kind of like, wow, like 5 years ago we were like two URI students, like just trying to figure it out. And like now we're just like doing the thing. And that was awesome.
Yeah.
And then even like a couple weeks ago, like just having the opportunity to go to Philadelphia for men's lacrosse, also a big thing down here. And even now, just going back to the baseball team going to Omaha, making their run in the NCAA tournament. It's never hasn't been too many dull moments in my year here, so I'm definitely very grateful.
That's awesome, man. It's great you mentioned Kate Rogerson too, because I've actually had the opportunity to connect with her not too long ago, actually.
Yeah.
And she was also actually down for the in Brooklyn for the NCAA tournament, the March Madness tournament. Obviously with Duke, UNC, NC State, in a great run. She's doing amazing work, and I actually plan on getting her on this eventually. So,
dude, she's so awesome. Like, a lot of people. I have a lot of people to thank for where I'm at today, but she's like one of them. Just like being able to like answer any question that I had, whether it was like, storytelling, putting packages together, how to make my life easier, the job process, like all those different stuff. Like, don't know where I would be without her.
That's awesome. The Harrington community is the best, honestly.
Yeah, dude, the Rams are everywhere, man.
We're everywhere.
Everywhere.
Instead, in my internship, the Adam Shine's producer, and I didn't know, he went to the University of Rhode Island, and they were getting on me because it's funny, everybody, at least a lot of people in New York went to Syracuse. So for Shine to have a producer that went to URI and an intern at the time, he was like, I'm outnumbered for the first time in my career. So, but it's awesome to see URI being put on the map in this way, and you representing us down in UVA and in Charlottesville is awesome, man. So awesome. And I'm glad you were able to connect with Kate and all those other great people, and the Harrington School it's just amazing. It's cool to see, and it makes you look, it feels good, as a graduate. Like, I didn't just go to some school and get a degree and now I'm off and figure it all out. Like, I have a community of people who had the same experience as I did, and all kind of work towards where we are now in our professional careers. So
yes. Yeah, no, that's the most important thing. Yeah, it's like we're all like living proof of like what's possible.
100%. Last question I have for you. First of all, this interview has had everything from Dan Hurley, obviously catching up with you, which is always a pleasure. And I mean, I feel bad. I'm taking so much of your time, but
no, dude, you're fine.
This is awesome. It's been awesome. But for people graduating now, recent grads, or even myself, and for people who are on the same level as us and who are looking to continue to break into this industry, it's so competitive, and the job market is so tough, as we were talking about. Do you have any advice or anything, again, that you've learned that you want to leave the people with, or anything, that someone who may be watching this at home might take away from this interview?
Yeah, I have two things. I think the biggest thing is, obviously to get into this industry, you're going to have to get your hands dirty. You're going to have to be able to do a little bit of everything. I think, obviously I'm on air, but a lot of, what I'm doing goes outside of, the 3-minute sportscast that you might see every night. I'm writing my own stuff. I'm writing web stories, I'm doing a lot of writing. And I think, when you think, oh, TV sports reporter, like you're just talking, like, no, like a lot of it has to do with like writing and stuff. And that, I didn't think my experience at the Cigar would help me as much as it did now, but like I look back and I'm like, it's so valuable, like what I was able to learn there. And I think my second piece of advice is kind of just like knowing your value and understanding what it is. I think so often it's so easy to like compare yourself to other people, or you'll have like other people tell you like this is what you bring to the table. But I think it's just so important to like just understand like what you bring to the table, what you're capable of, because you're gonna come across people that are gonna tell you like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's about you proving to them, not even proving to them. I don't like proving stuff to other people, because like, what's the point? I don't care. I don't care about people enough to kind of, prove stuff to other people. But
Right.
like, just to like prove stuff to yourself that it's like, yeah, like,
Awesome.
it's hard, but I was like, I'm capable of doing this.
100%. 100% you are. Aniekan, you're the best. Keep up the amazing work. I can't praise you enough. I mean, seriously. If you don't know the name, remember the name because this guy's a star. Seriously. Looking forward to keeping in touch with you and watching you, of course, and all the amazing work you're doing. And thanks again for taking the time. Go Rhody, and congrats to Dan Hurley, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And as always, go Rhody. Thank you, Adam, for having me.
All right, man.